Hey there, Julia here. As much as I enjoyed changing things up for February with softer pastel colors, I actually did not love it too much in practice. So I'm excited to darken things up a little bit, kind of get back on brand, ink up some brand new pens and a few pens I've had for a while but haven't inked up yet. Definitely going for more of a green gold dusty palette this month, and I'm hoping for better results in practice. I'm also going to do something a little bit different with the spread layout and use the entire spread, do a larger swatch for each ink, and yeah, should be a good time. Let's get started with the first one, which is this Pelikan M100. Little cute guy here. It is in the white colorway, also known as the Stormtrooper colorway for obvious reasons. But this is a vintage Pelikan that came out around 1987, which I have specific ties to that year. No further information needed there. But I have this inked up with actually one of my favorite inks of all time, possibly. And it's Monteverde's California Teal. This ink always looks a little more green to me than a true teal. I just think it's so velvety and lush looking, and it has a really nice subtle red sheen to it. This ink also has a lubricant in it that keeps pens writing nice and wet and smooth, and I thought that that was super important for this pen in particular, just because it is an extra fine nib, and usually Pelikan's extra fine, like on their Suveron series, like on these pens, the extra fine is pretty bold, but with their steel nib pens, it's a little different. So this one does write like a true extra fine, as you'll see. I also like how we do get a little bit of an ink window here. You can maybe see it. See the ink levels here. It is frosted like a dark gray, but I will always appreciate an ink window, even with this little mini pen. Okay, next up in the lineup is a brand new pen, and this one's really fun because I named it. This is the Sailor Pro Gear in Starboard Lights. I mean, it's a little bit of a story time. I'll try not to get too wordy with this, but I'm in the Sailor Pen Guild, and they have a community forum online, and they were asking for suggestions to name their newest pen, which yes, it does look a little bit like, well, a lot of it like the Yoseka Home Pro Gear, but they were asking for name suggestions, and then people voted for the name that they liked the best. And so I went with Starboard Lights because those are the name of the lights that sort of lead ships to shore, and they're the same kind of like translucent green color. And then I just thought the name sounds cool, Starboard. So luckily that got the most likes, the most engagement on the community forum, and therefore they went with that for the name and the marketing. No, I wasn't gifted this pen, but I just felt like I had to get it because I named it. So I have this inked up with a custom mix that I'm calling Show Me Jade. And I cannot remember what is in this ink right now. Let's take a gander. Okay, Show Me Jade has 4 different inks mixed in here. 2 parts of Ferris wheel press 3 steamboats, which is a really light blue that I just wanted to get rid of because it was way too light for me to write with. 1 part Colorverse Show Me, which is also a light chromo shading blue, also quite light to write with. And then I mixed that with half part of Ferris wheel press Festival Grove, which is like a very light green, but not like illegible light green, but like a little bit lime. More green than this, but in the same tone. And then Birmingham Pen Company Ohio River, which is like sort of a dark bluish teal color. And I just had a few drops of that left. And so I wanted to go ahead and get rid of that, add it into a new concoction, and we got Show Me Jade. And so I just thought that this ink mix was a perfect match for Starboard Lights. And I promise I will get a move on. I am talking probably way too much. And I forgot to mention that this is a medium 21 karat gold nib. Yeah, I've written a little bit with this pen and ink combination already, and I'm really enjoying it. The shading is just enough for me to enjoy the shading property without, I always say this, but like feeling like I'm writing with water. Okay, the next pen has a little bit of a story. I've had it for a while, but I haven't inked it up yet. This is the first time, and I'm super excited to ink it up. This is the Pilot Custom 743 in the North American exclusive Verdigris colorway. This has a medium nib, and I have it inked up with one of Ferris Wheel Press's newer inks called Book of Botany. So how this pen came to be, as we're swatching here, I had the Pilot Custom 823, which is a vac filler, and I think that was a fine nib. I didn't love the fine nib. I thought it was a little too fine, and I didn't love the vac filler system, especially when I knew that I could get a custom 743, which is basically the same pen but with a cartridge converter filling mechanism. So I ended up selling my 823 and purchasing a Pilot 743 for a really good deal on Reddit. I thought it was going to be a medium nib. The seller advertised it as a medium nib, but it got to me and it was an extra fine nib, which, you know, earlier I said that the fine was too fine. So imagine my thoughts when I got an extra fine. So I told the seller it's okay. I figured I'd be able to swap with someone or get with my dealer and get a replacement nib, but turns out it is not that easy with Pilot to just get nibs. So after a while, a good long while of trying to find a person to swap nibs with, I went to Stationery Fest. And the amazing people at Truffet, I think is how you say, they just let me swap my extra fine 743 for this medium nib. I'd never inked up the extra fine one. It had never been inked up. It was brand new. And so they were nice enough to just let me swap them out. So I've been sitting on this pen since August, and I'm excited to get it going this month. Let's do this up here. Gorgeous. Can you tell that I missed my green inks last month? I've got one more for you in the greenish teal realm, and then we can move on. So this is another pen that I've had since August, around Stationery Fest time. Is that right? No. I got this one in November at the Colorado Pen Show from Good Made Better. And this is the Muse. I don't think that this colorway is widely available to purchase, but all of these kind of striations in the ebonite here, this whole pen is ebonite, all of these kind of cuts in here that looks like tree bark are all hand done. It's amazing. So I have this inked up with Archer and Olive Teal. This ink technically does not have a name, but it is teal, and I just call it Archer and Olive Teal. This came out with their first fountain pen, if I remember correctly, and their first pack of 3 inks. I only have 2 of them, but 3 inks. And I do have a review of that fountain pen and the inks, and a whole maybe rant about their paper on the channel. I'll leave that for you linked here if you're interested. But on the proper paper, this ink is pretty awesome. I forgot to mention that this is Yovo nib compatible, and so I actually have a fine nib in here. It is an Esterbrook branded Yovo nib. It is not postable. This pen, there is one called the Jester, I think, that is a mini, kind of a pocket pen that is postable. But it does seem like the flow with this pen and ink pairing is just like ideal. Okay, this next one is not a new pen at all. I just haven't inked it up in a little bit, and this is the Esterbrook Estie in the Botanical Garden colorway. I love that I can pair so many different fun colors with this pen. This time I decided to ink it up with Birmingham Pen Company Tiger's Eye, which I got in an ink swap. And it is one of the inks that I wanted to use this year. It's on the short list. This ink is so cool. It's like a greenish gold color with a really bright green sheen. This ink is always a trip because it turns my water into like neon green sludge. And I have this Yovo stick fitted with an extra fine elastic nib. So it does have little cutouts in the side of the nib there, which gives you a little bit of flex. It doesn't mean just like go full on and just put a bunch of pressure on the downstrokes, but you'll see whenever I do the writing sample here how subtle the line variation is. Okay, here we go. Very subtle. And very legible. I love a goldish color that leans yellow, orange, but is still very legible. And so you can see what I attempted to do here, matching up these same portions of the pen. I think it's spot on. Next up is a pen that I had inked just a couple of months ago, but I was ready for round two. This is the Platinum 3776 in the Calico colorway. Love this like celluloid finish on this pen. It's just so pretty. This is a medium nib, and I have it inked up right now anyways with Colorverse JFK's Dog Pushinka, which I don't know. We'll see. It is a lot of shading fun. The color is really pretty and matches the pen quite well, but I don't know if it's the best match for me in the way that I use my pens and what I like to see in writing as far as shading and legibility, really. But I don't know, that just could be me not giving it a real chance because I haven't really written with it that much. But if I don't love it, I already have a backup. I think I'm just going to ink it up with either Linen Toolbar Sesame Oil or Andurilium inks, Tulip Moth Worm or something like that. We'll see. See, it looks so dark and interesting in the swatch. I think I may have just written with it too soon before the ink like dropped from the converter to the nib, but it's been in here for a little bit, so we'll see what we're working with today. See, that looks way better. We may be fine. It's so luxurious. Yeah, we're good. That's perfect. Look how the swatch and the pen match. Not even the color, the swatch. Next up is a pen that I haven't inked up in a little bit, but man, I was excited to ink this up again. This is the Pilot Decimo, the Nagasawa version in the Coastal Stone Gray with the rhodium trim. Gorgeous, subtle gray gradient there. And I have a fine nib installed in here right now. And I have this inked up with an ink that I haven't used yet from the 2024 Diamine Inkvent calendar. This is Diamine Tundra. And I've definitely been enjoying my Jinhao 10, my Vanishing Point dupe. I got a new one after having an issue with the first one that I made a short about here on YouTube. That one ended up drying out super quick and was not a good time. So I ordered another one, the one that looks like the whiskey Vanishing Point, to just like see if it was a quality control issue or whatever. And I think it was, because the one that I'm rolling with right now doesn't dry out like that. I love gray inks. Even whenever I was doing more like bullet journal videos, I mentioned even then that I really liked gray fine liners versus black, just because it softened things up a bit and didn't make your writing and tasks and everything look so harsh. So I think the same with the gray inks and pens. It just softens everything up, but you still get lots of legibility and readability, which is really important to me. It's so funny that I love the Pilot capless nib in a fine. Like, that's the perfect size for me. But any other, like the Pilot 823, 743, 912, any of those other Pilot nibs minus the Kakano. And fine is just like too fine. So it's just so interesting. But medium with the capless seems a little too broad to me. Am I crazy? So yeah, once this dries up, you can kind of see that this ink kind of has both of these gradient colors in here. Okay, this next one is another brand new pen, first time inked up, recency bias situation. It is the Leonardo Momento Magico with a medium nib and the rhodium or silver hardware here. And this is the amethyst colorway. I am a sucker for any of these like strata, sand looking pens, but this is, I think, maybe my only one. I'm pretty sure. But I have this inked up with the only shimmer of the bunch, and that is Lavender Frost by Diamine. So I have a few of the Leonardo Momento Zeros, and they're basically the same, but this is a piston fill with a little ink window. Again, super nice to have an ink window. And the trim around the cap is different. So that's how you can tell right off the bat that you're looking at a Magico versus a Momento Zero. And you may or may not know that Lavender Frost is one of my favorite purple inks. I recently did a little countdown of my favorite purple inks. This is barely purple. This is like a grayish purple, but I love purples in that tone. This indeed looks nice and frosty with some silver shimmer. This does have a medium nib. And I have so many inks that would match this pen. I guess I just really love inks in this sort of color family. And this ink is from the 2023 Inkvent calendar, and I do remember it being a favorite from that bunch of inks. Okay, we're mostly dry, so we're going to take a closer look at what I have inked up for March. We have the Pelikan M100 in the Stormtrooper colorway with an extra fine nib, inked up with Monteverde California Teal. The Sailor Pro Gear and Starboard Lights with a medium nib, inked up with a custom mix I'm calling Show Me Jade. The Pilot Custom 743 in the Verdigris colorway with a medium nib, inked up with Ferris Wheel Press Book of Botany. That's a fun match. We have the Good Made Better Muse in the teal colorway, inked up with Archer and Olive's teal ink. Over here, look at that green sheen. That is exactly what I was talking about. It's so cool. I have the Esterbrook Estie in the Botanical Garden colorway, inked up with Birmingham Pen Company's Tiger's Eye. The Platinum 3776 in the Calico colorway, inked up with Colorverse JFK's Dog Pushinka. Next up, we have the Pilot Decimo in the Coastal Stone Gray colorway, inked up with Diamine Tundra. And so yeah, you can definitely see the darker grays matched up here and the lighter grays kind of matched up here in the shading. Don't really get that much shading in the writing, but the thought was there. And then finally, the Leonardo Momento Magico in the Amethyst colorway, inked up with Diamine Lavender Frost. This has a medium nib. super fun. So of course, I want to know what you have inked up this month. Let me know down in the comments. Are we twinning at all? Do you have any of these pens inked up as well for March? I think that I have a March vibe because if I look at my ink journal from last year, my currently inked for March, same vibes. None of the same inks though, I don't think. Nope, but the same vibes. So I am definitely a seasonal girly. I definitely think I'm going to shake out better this month when it comes to enjoying my pen and ink combinations. But of course, I'll let you know. If you want to check out my recent favorite pen and ink pairings, I'll leave that for you right here to check out next. Thank you so much for watching. Definitely subscribe if you haven't already and you've made it this far. Thanks so much for watching, and I'll catch you all in the next one.